Morgan, themorganreport.com. This is a special update on Silver Elephant Mining. A very brief introduction. I've known John Lee way back to the gold money days and followed his career from the beginning, as I just said. Had a fund briefly, dabbled in the newsletter side, but John has got the guts, I'll say, to get into forming a company, and he's done so. First one that we followed was Prophecy Coal. I think we did put him on the mastermind, and I think a lot of us participated in the financing. So we've been with John a long time. John has a knack, in my view, for finding undervalued assets. The problem is, from my perspective, is sometimes he's even too early. And and then I'll leave it at that. But John, you don't give up. You keep fighting. You find great assets, and you are there for the long term. So let me turn it over to you. There are people that don't know you, so let's get you to give a brief background and get the latest up to the minute information on Silver Elephant Mining. Thank you, John.
Well, thank you, David, for the introduction. We've known way back for 15 years, and you would agree that commodity investments is a lot about timing. And we've struggled through in the last 10 years. I recall just only a couple of years ago in 2017, the fund managers, would not take meeting for gold and silver stories. It's very, very fortunate that the tide has turned in just the last 12 months. And we've let our true identity shown as a company. I changed the name to Silver Elephant. Silver, David, is in our DNA, and we're all about silver. And I've known James Turk way back when I was a student of his for Gold Money, whom I worked for 3 years. And in the last 12 months, David, despite the COVID, Silver Elephant is being the busiest ever in the company's history. So we started out with a project called Pulukayo, which we acquired in 2015, and that was the second largest silver mine in the world based on historical production. And then in the last 6 months, we acquired 2 additional gold-silver projects. So in July, we announced the acquisition of a project called El Triunfo, and it's a bulk tonnage gold and silver multi-metallic project in Bolivia, of which we're drilling right now. And 2 days ago, on Tuesday of this week, September 7th or the 8th, we've announced another further silver acquisition by the name of Sunawayo. And David, we are truly ecstatic about this acquisition, of which we believe is the most important acquisition we made in the company's history. And that with the 3 projects altogether, what we call the 3 O's, the Sunawayo, the Pulukayo, and the El Triunfo, the company is embarking on an ambitious target of 300 million ounces silver resource in 2021, 2022.
Well, tell us more, John. You've got me excited, but at my age, I've heard some great stories along the line. I'm not saying anything negative. I'm just saying, I've gotten to the worst case, show me, don't tell me, but they all start with the beginning. And this is the beginning of a new page for your company, and I am excited. So tell us more.
Yeah, David, yes, well, David, I think for this Sunawayo project, we've been looking at this project for the project borders another project called Melkokota, and the type of project is called the SEDEX deposit. And as we're just learning, like you are, myself, and SEDEX is sedimentary exhalation deposit, and that is, if you think of Bolivia as a country, it was buried under the sea, and that's why you see Bolivia has got the largest Uyuni Salt Lake project. The Sunawayo project is about 250 kilometers to the northeast from the Salt Lake, and it's SEDEX deposit, sedimentary exhalation. So that is a large intrusive hydrofluid system that broke out of the ground and spread itself all over the seabed billions of years ago. And so therefore you tend to have these type of deposits that go up hundreds of kilometers, and with silver, lead, and zinc deposits that are in clusters. An example would be Glencore's Mount Isa project in Australia, of which is spread 600 kilometers long, and the deposit's been mining since 1920s, almost 100 years, and still have 500 million tons of resource left. Another example would be Tecominco's Red Dot project, and that is the United States' largest silver project, and that's producing something in the order of 7 to 8 million ounces of silver a year. The type of deposit is also very well known metallurgically. Another deposit is Sullivan Mine in British Columbia in Canada, of which over 100 million tons of reserves were dug out of the ground and might recently closed by Tecominco. Tens of billions of pounds of lead and zinc, 250 million ounce silver were recovered. So this project, what we call, just for the sake of for the namesake, is called the Sunawayo Makukulta District. It is a very similar in nature. It's a SEDEX deposit. The known mineralization extends over 100 square kilometers and over 35 kilometer strike. The existing deposit is sitting on Makukulta's side, and that's 350 million ounces, over 400 million tons. And they're only drilled 3 kilometers just to the south, literally 200 meters from the border of Sunawayo. And our geologists visited the project and firmly believe that the mineralization extends for at least another 8 kilometers towards Sunawayo from Makukulta. And so it is a gigantic system with the potential of reaching 1 billion ounces. And just real quick in terms of legal status, per news release of which we carefully drafted, and it's all self-explanatory, that a Sunawayo project is a private patented land of which Elephant has acquired 100%. And to the south is the Makukulta project. And that project is unpatented land owned by the Bolivian government, of which we applied for the license to explore and mine in January of this year. So right now, Makukulta belongs to the government and Sunawayo belongs to Silver Elephant. And the 350 million ounce deposit sits literally right at the border, and it sits on the Makukulta side. Obviously, a clear target would be for us to explore right along that border of Sunawayo. David.
Great. So I think you have prepared a slide deck for us. Is that correct?
Yes, I have.
Well, if you're ready, I'm ready.
Okay. Well, it'll be a presentation primarily focused on our latest acquisition. So the presentation will go for about 10 minutes. We try to cap it 10 minutes or less. And the first slide, David, can you just confirm you can see?
Yeah, we've got it.
Okay, great. The Elephant Mining, we're listed on the TSX main board, and we're trading very good liquidity. We traded 50 million shares per month. When the news came out, we traded 4 million shares in 2 days, just under $100 million market cap and 35% owned by institutions, insiders, including Sprott. The 3 projects are Sunawayo, Pulucayo, and El Triunfo. Our objective is to prove up to 300 million ounces of silver in the next 18 months. And we managed, while everybody was busy with COVID, assemble the land position in Bolivia of over 115 square kilometers amongst the 3 projects. Bolivia is a mining elephant country. It's the 6th largest silver producer in the world based on current production. It's dominated by San Cristobal, operated by Sumitomo, and they're the 2nd largest open pit mine, silver mine today. And also Cerro Rico is the world's largest silver mine, 2 billion ounces of mined already passed, and another 1 billion ounces in reserve. The country has excellent infrastructure. All of our projects access to water, power, and road, and share a railway to Antofagasta in Chile. Here is the main land position. Sunawayo is bordered in purple, and that is a project we just acquired as a private patented land. And Makukulta is government owned, and they are situated in the south. Each project has about 50 square kilometers, and combined is over 100 square kilometers. Makukulta features deposit 350 million ounces, the historical, but it was 4311 standards in 2011. It was produced and sits literally 200 meters from the border. In January, Silver Elephant applied for the rights to explore and to exploit Makukulta with the government of Bolivia. We expect a positive news sometime in 2011. However, it depends on the progress of COVID, as it is going quite, situation is quite severe in all of Latin America. I just want to spend a minute talk about Makukulta, which is under application Elephant, but we don't own outright at this point. In the past, it was operated by another Canadian junior. Over 45,000 meters drilling is being done from 2007 to 2010. The mineralization is hosting sandstones in the SEDEX setting, and the 350 million ounces were split amongst two deposits. We can see they're circled in the red. Here's the breakdown of the resource in Makuukota: 370 million ounces in historical measure, indicated, inferred, along with 4,000 tons of Indian gallium and over 1.3 billion pounds of lead and zinc.
John, if I might interrupt you there, going back a few slides, you know, you had San Cristobal on there. If I remember correctly, I think it was named Apex in the beginning, but regardless,
Yes.
You know, I know it's called a silver mine, but I'm a, you know, Mr. Honest. I mean, really, it's more of a zinc mine. And my question for you on these properties is, what percentage of these mines are silver versus, you know, lead zinc? Look, I know that you know, and almost all of my following knows that there's no such thing as a pure silver deposit.
Right.
But you just give us a general feel for where we're at with today's silver price. And we also know that if silver doubles in price, that a lead mine can become a silver mine.
Yes.
If it triples in price, a zinc mine can become a silver mine. But I just wanted to get that out in front of everybody now before I forget to ask the question.
Absolutely. David, all of our projects are precious metal dominant. They account for majority, over 50% of the silver content. So for example, Pulo Kyle, you're looking at 400 grams of silver and 5% lead and zinc. So I would say 70% is silver. In the case of El Triunfo, the mineralization is around 1 gram gold equivalent. That's 0.4 gold, 22 silver, and 1% lead and zinc. So gold and silver will account for 70% of the content. Of gold is around 40, silver is about 30, and then another lead and zinc account for 30. Sunawayo Makuukota project, is predominantly silver, which account for 70%. Like and you talk about San Cristobal. San Cristobal is running at about 40 grams of silver and about 1% lead and zinc. It was silver, it was zinc heavy, but 30 grams of silver, it was $20. Now it's $60, right, David? So it was $30 zinc, $20 silver, and now it's $50 silver, and it's still $30 zinc. So all these projects are silver majority.
Good. I just want to be clear on that, and thank you for the breakdown. I didn't expect you to do so well off the top of your head, John, but I know how smart you are. But it's just a warning to my members because, look, silver's more sexy than lead or zinc. And a lot of times you'll see, let's say, silver equivalent, for example. And I don't want to detour too far from this discussion, John, but I wanted to break down. I want to warn my followers that, look, you want to be a little bit careful. Not everything that's touted to be silver is truly silver. So back to you and continue your slide deck. Sorry for the interruption, but it was very important for me to get it.
Absolutely, no problem. And you're right, David. I think that the key here is I want to convey the message to your audience is a lot of things, a good project is also about timing and also the country. So Bolivia is opening up after Evo Morales had fled the country. It's completely open for foreign investment and firmly aligned with Peru and with Brazil and the United States, which had just issued a foreign aid to Bolivia for the first time in more than a decade. A country is under investment for more than 10 years, of which you're looking for foreign investment. And secondly, David, you talked about silver versus zinc. Another thing is just about the economic viability of the deposit. So in our view, this district, Sunawayo and Makuukota district is in play. What I mean that because the project is so large, but the grade is below average at about 30 to 40 grams. However, at a $30 silver, this project all of a sudden becomes potentially very economic. And due to the size, it is a project that is in play. Of which, what I mean by that, we have 3 major companies already contacted us, and they're in the data room looking over the data.
Okay.
So further to talk about this, going back to Sunawayo Makuukota, I want to zone in on where the existing deposit sits. You can see that 350 million ounces of silver sits right on the border to the south in the Makuukota side. The minerals the minerals are within what they call the sandstones, literally brown looking, which the brown looking is a little darker color that bears higher grade. It starts from surface and goes down to 500 meters and still open at depth. And the sandstone trend and this lithological trend continues for 8 kilometers into Sunawaya. And the last drill hole, the deposit was not drilled out, and there was no further drill holes to the north of the boundaries of the resource. I believe the reason they stopped drilling is so huge. They had to draw the line. They're already at 500 billion tons and 350 million ounces. And there's absolutely no reason to believe that the deposit extends. And in fact, we believe that the trend actually thickens. It's more on the Sunawaya side than on the Makukota side. And you can see from the color of this deposit. So it is absolutely spectacular situation. Moving on to the Sunawaya side, that's the blue deposit, which we acquired 100%. There is currently a mine at 100 ton per day. They're mining open pit, 10% lead, produce a lead concentrate. And they're not getting credit for silver because at 30 grand silver, they were not getting the silver credit. I think the important to note is that the mine was so far out, 10 kilometers from the border. And during the site visit, our geologists taken 48 samples, and they're literally everywhere with lead and silver showings, and there are artisanal minings, and numerous artisanal minings are mining for silver. The results will be out in the next 30 days. We're in receipt of some, they so far look very, very positive. And David, here's the key. If the deposit, if the samples turned out to be positive, we could be looking at a trend that are 10 kilometers long, and with already a proven deposit right at just the border, of which we might also have a shot at it. And it is absolutely the potential of a truly world-class deposit in the making. I want to talk a little bit more about SEDEX deposit, of which we expanded in the introductory of this call. SEDEX deposit is sedimentary Asakhalif style deposits. It used to be under the seabed, of which there's hydrothermal event took place, of which the fluid literally came out of the ground and spread all over the seabed. And the best example is Glencore's Mount Isa project, of which after 100 years of mining still has 500 million tons of resources left. The metallurgy is also very well understood. There's been a number of breakthroughs in recoveries in the last 100 years. Another example is Tecominco's Sullivan mine that extracted over 30 billion pounds of lead and zinc, in addition to 285 million ounces of silver. Another good example of a SEDEX deposit. If again our theory is true, then we're looking at 100 square kilometers and maybe even more. We just don't know the extent at this point because it hasn't been explored. There has not been one single drill hole on Sunawaya, David. And even on the other side, Makukota, they only drilled 3 kilometers out of a 17 kilometer strike. It's truly spectacular deposit, of which is remarkably underexplored. I want to briefly touch on India Magellan. India Magellan is a bit unique for Makukota. There is a late overprint event. There's another hydrothermal fluid event that occurred after the initial run, which laid the India Magellan on surface. And India Magellan is applied for modern electronic applications. 85% of the Indian production is consumed in electronics. These are touch screens, flat screens, and the solar panels. And then gallium is for electronic diodes. And of that 84%, 94% come from China, and 70% of the indium come from Asia, in China, Korea, and Japan. So this could potentially land us into a good scenario with having an Asian strategic investors and off-taker, given that all the electronics come from Asia. The price of indium and gallium are trending quite steady at about $10 an ounce. And Makukota SEDEX region, you're looking at a combined around extra 10 grams per 10 grams per ton of indium and gallium credit, which could be quite significant, account for around 10 to 20% of the credit in the deposit. So overall, David, I just want to emphasize again that the 3 major points I want to drive at. First of all, there are very few SEDEX deposits that's controlled by a junior. Majority is already recognized because these deposits tend to be shallow with surface expressions, and they're very big and all discovered way back. Red Dog by Teck is 30 years old, and all the other SEDEX deposits well understood and already been claimed. And the reason is Bolivia was underexplored. And secondly is Prophecy already controlled 50% of this SEDEX deposit and already under application with the government on the other 50%. And the two deposits are inseparable. They're joined by the hip and on the hip, and the borders is where the meat of the deposits are. 350 million ounces on the south, but we have every reason to believe that the extension goes into the north based on just visual clue and based on the nature of the SEDEX deposit. And then third important point I wanted to share again is that this deposit is in play. Given the current silver price at $30 an ounce, you're looking at an open pit scenario of which there's literally no overburden. And at 30 grams silver plus significant lead and zinc and indium and gallium credit, you're looking at an open pit scenario with mining costs less than $5 and with a well-proven metallurgy. The deposit is in play. It is one of the very few exceptional SEDEX deposits that exists today that's not controlled by a major. It's just, our team is working around the clock at 20 hours a day. We're barely losing sleep over it, and we're pinching ourselves. And David, just to provide a bit more color, is we literally had to chase the vendor down, who's 75 years old, from another Latin America country, and he was almost lured into Bolivia and by another guy. He's in real estate business, and he was told that he had this 100 ton per day lead deposit, which to produce a concentrate, and has been breaking even in the last 10 years. He's 75 years old. He doesn't have a geologist on staff, and he just want to get out of the country. So we literally chased the guy down and pay a deposit, $6.5 million. We paid a 5% deposit, and we beat down the other two major mining companies that are listed on the New York Stock Exchange, over $3 billion market cap each. And we're very fortunate because we already have a team of Bolivians in place in Bolivia. We're able to chase down the vendor and get this deposit and get to the finishing line. So we're truly very, very fortunate.
Excellent. Is that your last slide, John?
This is about Sunawayo. We can talk with a couple of, we'll have 2 slides on Pulucayo and 2 slides on Ultra Info, if your readers and your audience like to go into.
Sure.
Yes. Well, David, Pulucayo is our bread and butter since 2015, and it is a 30 square kilometer district. It has 90,000 meters of drilling and put over 57 million ounces of silver. It features the Pulucayo mine, which is the south of the map we looked at, and that's where the 600 million ounces, historical ounces, were mined. And that's about 36 million ounces. And to the north, 7 kilometers, the Paca deposit, of which there are 20 million ounces and 256 grams of silver. And in between, there are several satellite deposits which never been drilled. David, could potentially be a material event in the next 30 days. Recall that we acquired this project at the bottom of the silver market when it's $14 an ounce. So you can see the cutoff. We use extremely high cutoff because silver prices are $14. What we've done in the last 3 months is engage Mercator, independent engineering firm, to retabulate our resource at a cutoff everybody uses, which is 200 for underground and 50 for open pit. Of that, the results going to come out. It could potentially transform the deposit in terms of resource, potentially doubling the deposit, the size of the deposit in contained silver. And so these are never black and white, depending on the cutoff, especially a district as large as this. I would not be surprised to see north of 100 million ounces of resource at a slightly lower cutoff, and that's going to be a bit of a transformational, refreshing event to the market as the deposits being laid dormant for so long.
John, let me hold you up there for a sec.
Yes.
We have a lot of new members to the Morgan Report, and a lot of them know all the terminology, and some don't. So can you briefly tell us, changing the cutoff, what that means? I know what it means, you know what it means, but for someone that's just brand new to the sector, I know it basically doubles the resource. Could you just explain that a little bit further, please?
Yes. Well, I think, David, it's to do with concentration, right? If you look at the deposit, or another example, if you look at the sea, the seawater, there's sodium content. And there's sodium in your diet, and there's sodium in a lot of different, like sodium and salt. So the way you calculate the contained silver resources for deposit, the cutoff is very important. So if you look at a ton of rock, if you have a threshold to calculate the silver resource of below, say, an ounce a ton, which is 30 grams, then any resource or any rocks or materials that has 30 ounces, has less than 30 grams of silver, then will be discarded and treated as non-exist. So depending on the cutoff you use, the number of ounces of silver in the ground can vary greatly. And therefore, there's a lot of promotional stories out there, David, you probably know a few, that has cut off very, very low, and it has a very big resource numbers, and you just want to put those, you want to put, have a little bit of caution in those resource numbers, because even though you might have a big number, but they might not be recoverable. So the resource cutoff is an indication of the threshold of which the silver resources are measured in a deposit.
Let me just add on to that. So basically, cutoff means that at a certain level, you're really getting true silver out of the deposit, and below that, it's really worthless. Now, yeah, there's some silver in there, but it really can't be recovered economically. So the higher the price goes, the more economic the deposit becomes, and therefore that forces a company like yours to reevaluate what is valuable rock and what isn't. So I think I summed it up fairly well. Do you want to add on to that or just move on?
Well, I think one other point is, as you and I both major silver bulls, for the more sophisticated stock investors, you can think of silver juniors as an optionality, as an option, call option on silver, or as call option on any other assets. So what therefore you want to look for is slightly out of the money, maybe silver deposit, but has a very large resource base. So that as silver prices rise, the value of the deposits could go quite a lot higher than the silver deposit, maybe that's smaller in size and higher grade in nature. Another point to drive out, for example, Eric Sprott, one of this major mining legend, and is also a big shareholder of Silver Elephant. Earlier, 2 years ago, he was a biggest shareholder of Kirkland Lake, which is a very high grade gold deposit, but has a bit less reserves. But since this year, he's branched out or sold out a lot of his Kirkland Lake stock and get into the likes of Detour Gold, for example, which merged with Kirkland Lake. They're of lower grade but bigger deposit, because as silver and gold prices go up, the value of this deposit is a lot more leverage, torque in the value. So again, depending on which way the spectrum goes, obviously the lower grade is less economic at lower silver prices and potentially uneconomic and more risky at lower prices. But on the other end of the spectrum, if you have a bit lower cutoff but bigger resource base, all of a sudden, as silver prices go, previously seen as an economic deposit, all of a sudden becomes viable. So, I want to again, we call the company Silver Elephant for a reason. We really are looking for sizable deposit, big deposit, of which this is another one. You can see that this is a schematic, a long section schematic of Pulucayo, starting with Pulucayo mine on the left, and that's 600 million ounces where the mine was mined from 1800 to 1950. That's the Tahoe vein. And to the right, you see the Paca deposit. That's to the right. So we scratched the surface of Pulucayo. We're able to develop 34 million, 37 million ounces. And Paca, we drilled on surface. We developed another 20 million ounces. However, this is again a very large hydrothermal system that is manifests itself and resulting in a number of dome-like structures, of which is visible on satellite. You saw the previous map, and they've never been drilled outside of Paca and Pulucayo. And we believe that this is an absolute district play with a bit more exploration work done. It's never been explored, never been drilled. That the potential additional discovery, there's a very high chance for potential discovery. And here another is an example of some of the mapping and sampling that we did in the Pulucayo district. And you can see there's clearly hundreds of samples, well over 100 samples with silver grabs on surface, of which have never been drilled. This is another district play of which was established mine, brownfield mine before on just the south part of that system, of which are yet to be explored with its full potential. The project has is well-known metallurgy. The metals can be recovered with very high recoveries in a mining town with a strong mining tradition, generational miners, easy access to infrastructure. I just want to touch it last point on Pulukayo. This is the longitudinal view of the Pulukayo mine. It's 3 kilometers wide and kilometer of depth. It's the size of width of Manhattan and the depth of Al Girard, which is the largest, tallest building in the world. You can see the extent. This is a 2-dimensional. The color you see, these are mine stopes in the past. However, keep in mind that this is 2-dimensional. We're able to drill just the top 30% portion of the deposit. We're able to prove 30 million ounces. And there's no reason not to believe that the deposit further resources can be identified within this mine area, any addition to the levels beneath. The last level was mined at minus 700. The mine was stopped by the government, not because it ran out of ore. So 1952, there was a revolution in Bolivia, and everything was nationalized. And the last level was mined in 1952. We had a lot of expert geologists that visited this project earlier this year, including geologists from Robert Freeland. Everybody speculated and believed that the project extends another at least several hundred meters continue. And you can see the grades are truly spectacular, over 800 grams silver equivalent. The continuity increases and the grade also increases. And given that this is 2-dimensional, there's a lot of additional materials and resources in and around the existing stopes, behind and in front of the vein, which we know for sure exists based on what we saw from near surface. And again, we believe that this is a project with excellent potential. So that in all is what, David, all in all, that's what people know about Pulukayo. People don't know about Sunawayo and Makukota. People don't know about this other project called El Triunfo, which I will just spend a couple of minutes walk through. This is a bulk tonnage multi-metallic El Triunfo project. The operator gave up the project in 2009 during the financial crisis. It was, again, exploited by another Canadian junior company, and they didn't make that final $1 million payment. The key takeaway, hey, what's the catch, David? The catch is, back in the days, they drilled 3 holes, all 3 hit mineralization. So either they were very brainy people or the project is no-brainer. We like to think it's probably the latter. They drilled 3 holes and all 3 hit mineralization, featured by 94 meters of 0.4 gold, 22 silver, and 1% iron zinc. Back in the days, this grade might not seem very sexy because gold was $800 an ounce. But David, gold right now is at nearly 2,000. So all of a sudden, 1 gram gold equivalent with 20 grams silver and 0.4 gold, you're looking at, if you're punching the Kitco KC calculator, this rock is $60, $70 a ton, of which it starts from surface. It's bulk tonnage, 100 meter worth of continued mineralization. And we didn't really wait. The rigs on site, we drilled 4 holes already, as denoted by the green, by the white. We started from the left, and we're onto hole number 4. The core looked very, very good, and there's no reason not to believe so. It also features high-grade artisanal mining on surface. The project has a mining license, and the previous vendor is a recurring theme, is another very old fellow geologist, of which ran out of steam, and sold the project to us for $1 million. 75 years old. It has very excellent local community relations, and which we see as a strong suit of our operating in Bolivia. There is an IP system being done on the deposit that shows a very strong anomaly beneath surface, and this first drill hole of 94 meters, we believe is only the tip of the iceberg. So you're not only getting 1, not 2, but 3 shots at a significant world-class discovery. And that's why they come about, David, of our target of 300 million ounces silver equivalent in the next 18 months. And we don't think it's far stretched. We're starting with 57 million ounces at Pulukayo, of which there's going to be a resource tabulation of which we might potentially hit the century mark on just Pulukayo alone. And then we have the Sunawayo project, potential acquisition of Makukota project, and the rigs are turning out Triunfo. And currently market, David, you know as well as I am, with your analyst team, that the market currently is assigning $500 million of valuation for open pit type of scenario of 200 million ounces silver resource. So $500 million, 200 million ounces. We are quite fairly valued for about $100 million market cap at 60 million ounces, but the street are asleep. They are not looking at what this tsunami is to come for our elephant. Some of the shareholders saying that, we're putting wings on the elephant. because the next set of events taking place could completely transform the company. From additional drill result from El Triunfo, from the resource recapitulation of Pulucayo, we're drilling Pulucayo next week, and we're looking at set 3 rigs on Sinahuayo. And the priority of Sinahuayo is to drill on the border and also around the open pit mine, 12 kilometers from the border. It's never been drilled around the open pit, and also along that 12-kilometer strike, of which 48 sample grabs assays will come in any minute. And if the assays were consistent, it matches our expectation, anywhere from 10 to 20% lead and zinc, plus up towards 100 to 200 grams of silver. This would be absolute in play, David. This project, the company would absolutely in play, and I'm running out descriptors, but I think in such a short order, I'm just very fortunate to be working with a world-class team of members from the past, from Hecla, Barrick, and Falcon Bridge, and this is a terrific team that we have. Absolute world-class, David.
Very good. Well, I'm just going to follow up and then give the final word to you, John. Again, to repeat, we have a lot of very faithful, loyal members to the Morgan Report, and we have acquired a lot of new people that are interested in the sector that may have come back from earlier days, and probably people that are not that acquainted with the mining sector at large. So the number one question that some are asking is, well, David, why did you recommend this? And the answers I have for a very long time. Well, why'd you take it off the list? And the reason is that the performance of the stock doesn't necessarily is commensurate with the performance of the company. In other words, stocks or companies can be undervalued, fair valued, or overvalued. The company was extremely undervalued in my very studied view for a very long time, but it just got to be too painful for me, and too many questions, and on it went. So that doesn't mean I don't like the company. I love the management. I basically did not sell all of mine, although I did like my position in Prophecy Coal, I'll be honest. And when you made that great discovery with the Wellgreen project, which was a spin-off of Platinum, the stock went to the stratosphere. It went up so quickly. And I actually recommended to our members to sell some of that. So we've had a long history, John. So yes. I'm going to just do this update for the benefit of everybody that's a paid subscriber. Make up your own mind. From my perspective, I'll state it verbally. I think this is probably one of the best situations that you could put some speculative capital into from a short and long-term perspective. But as far as we're going to come right back to it immediately as a formal recommendation, that remains to be determined. Is that a fair assessment, John?
Yeah, David, if I can bring you the 3 key points, is every time I look at the stock, I'm an investor myself, I've done fairly well, is what is this? That because the market, there's a buyer and a seller, right? So it's what is, when you're buying something, how can you assure that how can you assure the seller side, more than the seller? That's how you make money. And I think, as I said, people are thinking Pulucayo as a tired story, and they don't know what we've had in such a short time, assembled a world-class 3 projects, and they don't know the extent or understood the story of Sinahuayo. However, 4 million shares traded in the last 2 days, so some people are definitely understood. We have analysts from major investment banks in Canada that are knocking on our door. We have major companies are in our data room. So I think that's the first point. I think there's a lot of a new development in this company of which they're not well understood. And secondly, David, investing is all about looking forward and not looking backwards. Yeah. Company is completely different from it was just 3 months ago. And secondly, in a country that, again, is misunderstood. Our team is in Bolivia since 2005. That's before Evo Morales came into power, which is a socialist government. And the company's been operating peacefully in Bolivia quite successfully without government interference because we have a very strong local community relationship. And now Evo has left Bolivia and a new government is in place. They're pro-investment. There's been a decade of underinvestment. And despite that, Bolivia is still 6th largest silver producer in the world. That shows you the potential of Bolivia. And looking forward, again, there is a country that's open for investment. And then third, David, looking at the past, just provide a bit more color to it. This is my only company. So you have a lot of different type of business model like Hunter Dickinson or like Stan Barty, and maybe some even better known people like Robert Freeland or Frank Giustra, they have 6 or 7 different companies that run, and some of them fail, some of them succeed. In our case, David, we see our past history is in fact actually a strength for us because we persevered and left everything in Silver Elephant, and the shareholders didn't have to worry about our finding a new deposit and starting a new company and have the past people not getting the benefit of our strength and our fruits of our labor. And that's why we vended everything into Silver Elephant, and we survived, we persevered. Back in the days, in the last 10 years in the bear market, we just struggled to survive. And we never gave up, David. And we have done nickel, we have done vanadium and whatnot, but now, we're letting our true color know. We're a Silver Elephant, and the silver is in our DNA. And this is all about silver, David. And you're going to see some very exciting chapters for Silver Elephant with an excellent team, with a very good understanding of the country, excellent understanding of the geology, a great crew, a trustworthy crew of which we're executing our business plan. And you're going to come, and excellent shareholders in Eric Sprott, in Maria of 9 Point, and backed up by a couple of other U.S. funds in Australia and the United States. That we really have the makings of something really going up. Really, we have the makings of a great company. And as I said, if we execute carefully with this 300 million ounce target, I think there's going to be a very significant revaluation of our company.
Excellent, John. Thank you for your time, and look forward to seeing you in person in some future date. And thank you for being not only a good friend, a true professional in the sector, and you've matured a great deal in the last 15 years, my friend. Thanks so much. I'm really honored.
Thank you. I look forward to providing additional updates in the days and weeks to come with your audience.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.